stuff. That was awesome. Um, so thank you for that. That cake, Julie, that was really, really good. um, anyhow, so welcome to the annual congregation meeting. We're going to be discussing the budget and many other things for our vision and what we would like to see God do in this church in the coming year for 2025. But I'm going to start by opening us in prayer. So let's do that now. Heavenly Father, we just thank you and we praise you for allowing us to be here today. We just pray that you lead and guide this meeting today. And Father God, just let voices be heard. Let our minds be open, our hearts be open to all those in this church who would want to say something or don't let them hold back, Father God, if there's any kind of concerns or anything at all, Father God, that they would come forth and just speak their concerns and let it be known. Because we are a church family, and this is everyone's church, and so of course it belongs to you, Lord, and so we just ask for that to be, and we just ask for guidance and direction today um, as we discuss these things for the new year and kind of recap on last year for the budget and just all the aspects of the church and just where the vision is, Lord, and what you're guiding and directing us to do. So we just thank you, we just praise you, and ask you to join us here today. In Jesus' name, amen. So first of all, I want to start out with an announcement of this is a sabbatical year. So that means that our pastor is going to be taking a sabbatical. So come June 1st, that's the hope that we have set forth that John will be able to take a sabbatical. This sabbatical will last till the end of August. I think August 31st is the target, and then he will be back in the fall. And with that, you know, we've kind of put some things in place where just so people are not uncomfortable with the fact that he's going to be gone. This doesn't mean that when he comes back, he's going to leave our church or he won't come back. He is coming back. And if there was, for some reason, a situation where John, even if he comes back but then left before a year was up, he would pay that back, the sabbatical, because obviously on a sabbatical, he's still going to be getting his pay. So, but to get a little bit into that, what we're hoping is that during this time, the pulpit can be filled with, you know, men who have stepped up in the church, elders, and different guys here in the church who would like to do sermons. And not only that, but we do have Bob Bonner and Dennis, what's Dennis's name? Dennis Weber, who we could also, you know, resource out to fill the pulpit. But we're hoping that this can be done within the church. But that just means there's going to be a lot of people needing to step up, and just we're looking for many volunteers to help out in that time, and just, you know, it's not going to be easy by no means, but God is with us, and us elders believe that He's in control of this church, and He's guiding and directing it. So I just wanted to make that announcement that it is a sabbatical year, and what I mean by that is we need to be thinking that in the future going forward that what it means for a sabbatical year is there's going to be more sabbaticals to come. John's been here 8 years going on 9, and he hasn't had a sabbatical. And I think the norm is for them 6 to 8 years. So he's definitely due to have that. And we're going to have, I think, is his name Tim, that he's going to come in and he's going to give a sermon on sabbatical. He's going to kind of give us more of an idea of what that means and kind of give also just what that would mean for the marshals and also for us as a church. So, yeah, if, you know, God's in control. So I believe that we can do this, and I believe that John and Teresa need the spiritual refreshing, and that's what a sabbatical is all about, to bring them new vision. they come back in and are re-energized, and it gives them some time to just get their spirit refilled. So yeah. Um, with that, I'm going to now pass the mic over to Andy to give the budget presentation. So Andy Apple, if you would come up here, please.
Does everybody have a copy of this budget that was passed out? Or does someone need a copy of the budget? I have a few copies. Obviously, everybody put their questions on it and brought it back with them ready for today. I really appreciate that. No, I did have engagement this year, a little more than in the past, with concerns that I was able to talk to. And then I'm also going to pass out the profit and loss by class for last year. Tim, if you would
Yep,
help me.
I will.
And what this is it sort of shows the budget classes on it and how we did. And I'll grab that from you in a moment. Sorry. It is small, but we can go over it, no problem. Okay, whoa, a little loud, a little loud. I'm loud anyway. So we have your proposed budget, and then what I just had passed out was last year's how we did against the budget. And there's some numbers on there that won't make sense to you, but they helped us build the budget for this year. Going over those numbers, like I say, praying about it, per se losing sleep over it, thinking about that. Are we being good stewards of what the Lord gives us to do here? This is his house, so what comes in, we want to use to honor him and further his work here that he has for us to do. So, by looking at the Grace Bible Church budget, the 2024, when you look down at the bottom, last year we voted on and approved a budget of $129,750. So $129,750. What we spent last year, we came in under budget for the church was $127,620. So we came in under budget with our expenses. With that being said, we came in under that with giving. We came in at $118,000. So we were short. So we used from savings to cover that gap. The left column of that profit and loss by class is building fund. Is that isn't part of the budget. That was like the new mini split units that were put in. It's money set aside just for building the capital fund for building major building maintenance, or improvements, not normal yearly bills, but something major happening, such as when we did the front cover and then did the mini splits and things that we look at that we're probably going to have to do in the future, things like that. So with that profit and loss by class youth breakfast, that is what we use to track what we spend on camp. We do not budget for youth camp. We never know how many kids are going to go, and then they fundraise, and that is pretty much covered by their fundraising, and then what they personally invest in that camp, because they all give X amount percentage of the cost themselves, and then we fundraise for the rest. But we do not budget for camps. So when you see youth group on the budget, that is not anything about camps. That's just for our youth group to do their normal functioning. Having fun with maybe ice skating or roller skating or feeding them because they all have hollow legs and that sort of thing. But, so that's why on that class, the youth breakfast is there. That's what we capture, what we spent on camp. So as we look at the 2025 proposed budget, you notice there's some additions and some subtractions. And then the bottom line is we reduced the budget down to $125,300. Having passed that out, and you've had a chance to look at it, and I know I've had some questions, but is there any more questions about that number or any concerns? We'll use the microphone.
I know that there's both fixed and variable costs involved in budgeting. And when I went through this, I noticed that in order to do this, we had to do away with all the contributions for all the different organizations. I just thought that was kind of sad that they had to go away.
And that is something that Kevin and I struggled with greatly, and I know it's on John's heart too, because we love to be able to be a blessing to the in-town mission organizations, even though they might not go by mission, but Joe's Place, Gospel Rescue Mission, Pregnancy Care Center, because those affect our community immediately because they are here. But struggling with that and looking where we're at with giving, if we're not covering our bills, it's hard to then give even more out. Even though we know it's for a good cause, we're not covering the bills that we have. So we struggled with that, prayed about it, and we dropped that out of the proposed budget. And the hope would be is that people would step up and give directly to those organizations until we get back to a place where we can. We used out of savings to cover the deficit that we had, and eventually that will disappear, and then we will disappear. So even though that was a shocker and it's a hard decision, it's a reality of where we're at. And yes, it is sad that we won't be able to do what we've done in the past, but same time, it's an opportunity for people to go above and beyond, per se, to directly reach out to those organizations and support them and not just rely on the church to give that donation for them.
My voice isn't loud enough?
But it's on the video.
Oh. Okay. I guess what I'm trying to say is I really liked what you said about trying to get people to fill in and make these contributions on their own. I know we try to do that, but maybe that can be promoted a little bit more through the church, because I don't see any way to adjust this budget to where it's at without doing that.
And we have in the past, and I'm guessing Molly will be doing that with missions too, is bringing those groups in to present that need to the congregation. So it is out in front of them as the missions committee is getting their legs under them because of the loss of the knowledge that went with the old members that are either gone home to be with the Lord or moved or no longer go here for different reasons. Molly, Tim, and the others on the committee were sort of handed a problem child to go, here, you figure it out, because the wisdom of old was gone. So as they're getting their legs under them, I'm pretty confident that they'll be bringing those back to us, just like the missions conference that they worked so hard on and they brought us at. So we see things to come mission, Grace Ministry International, because they come with the missions conference. So those other groups, and we have the baby bottle drive for Pregnancy Care Center, but in the past, Joe's Place has come here, and Ken Emilio, when he was with the Gospel Rescue Mission, has spoke for us, but and then I don't know if we've had anybody real recently with them, but my hope and guess is that that will be brought to our mind because of what they're doing on that missions committee. So there's, I guess, no way to sugarcoat that. It's the reality of where we're at. But it is a chance for people to step up and step out and give and not just rely on the church. Well, the church will make a contribution. Well, you've got skin in the game because you're going to personally reach out and give. You know, and it's not because of guilt. It's because the Holy Spirit's leading you to do it. It's like when you give here. I will never hold a baseball bat and threaten your kneecap. That doesn't work. You give what the Lord lays on your heart. The Lord has work to do here, and he lays it on you to give. That's what you give. And Julie and I, through the years, have experienced the blessing of giving, of stepping out. Satan loves to steal your joy of giving. And let's face it, he's a very crafty opponent. So that's something you fight against, is saying, going, you don't have enough to meet your bills, or this or that. Do you drink a Dutch Brothers coffee every week, every day? What are the little things you reward yourself, but are you giving back to the Lord? You know, if this is your church home and you love this church and want to see it continue, you give your time, talent, and treasure to keep this church in place. Like I say, it's not fun or easy to build the budget and look at things and you go, we're going to make cuts, or we'd like to do this, but that's not a reality. But I believe we have been good stewards of what the Lord has given us. We have open books. If you want to know what's being spent where, all you have to do is come and talk to me. And if I don't know it off the top of my head, I can find it for you. Because it's the Lord's money. We want to be good stewards. So we don't hide things. So with that being said, is there any other questions or concerns with the proposed budget for this year? Okay, there's not a lot of us here, but those that are here, I'm going to do a vote by hand, because whether you're a member or not, to me, this is the fellowship for the giving, because if you attend here and this is your church home and you give, this is your church. And I know some people can't be here because of sickness, and they would have liked to have been here. But I'm going to take a vote of the people that are here. We're not going to do secret ballot. We're just going to raise your hand and see who approves it, and we'll raise our hands for those that don't. And if there's no amendments or anything to the 2025 proposed budget, I'm going to ask for a yay vote on the 2025 proposed budget. And now I will ask for the nay votes on the proposed budget. All right, and the yays are greater than the nays, and I'm guessing the nays are like me. You have apprehension about not giving or different things, but I could be wrong on that, but it's the sad reality of what it is. So with the majority of the yays carrying the proposed budget, we're going to go with the 2025 proposed budget. And like I say, we'll address some of those concerns as we can and as things come up. But as always, we strive to be good stewards of what the Lord gives us. Yes, ma'am. One moment. Let me get you the microphone.
Of so many times when years ago we didn't even have a missionary conference budget. We just took a collection after it was over, and it always amazed me how much people contributed. And I think that's an encouraging thing to think about whenever we've needed it for somebody special, because it was something that came up that we want to help with. that happens, and I think we have very generous church when it's, you know, we stick together when we need more money. Just a little word of encouragement.
And we still do have very generous people, and I don't have the number in front of me, and I don't know if Molly does either, but we were blessed with money that came in for the missionaries last year. We were able to give them a nice amount and send them on their way. I don't know if it was quite $1,100 per family group that came, but it was real close to that. So what you see in the budget that we used to give was just for the parent organization to help with administrative costs. So the money that we gave to those probably didn't go per se directly to an individual missionary unless they used part of their money for that. But the budget or the money we used to give was not intended for just an individual of that missionary conference. But yeah, it's an amazing blessing to see the generosity and the way the Lord works in the hearts of people here when we have that missionary conference. So hopefully that'll touch people too with the local groups that come in, and that'll carry through with them as well. Any other comments? If not, I'm going to turn it back over to Tim.
Okay. Okay, so now we're going to get into the ministries, kind of what, kind of a recap of last year and kind of maybe a vision or just what we're hoping for 2025 in these different ministries. And so we're going to start out with the missions committee, which was just brought up kind of. So Molly's going to give us a little recap and maybe a little hint into what we are looking for this next year.
All right. So yeah, like Andy said, we had a very successful missions committee last year. The total raised per family was $1,162. So really big. And I know that at that breakfast that we have on Thursday morning, the last day, unofficial day of the missions committee, the missionaries were very impressed with how much we were able to raise for them. As such a small church, they called us a missions church. So I think as far as the big organizations, GMI, TCM, we have sometimes other organizations come through, like Karen and Fred Vinton were from the Wycliffe Translators. So those types of organizations we do get to come through, and I know that they are very grateful and see that we're very focused on, supporting our missions organizations. But yeah, that being said, I recognize that the budget proposed does have a lack of giving for those organizations from the church budget, and I do plan on being more active in bringing in the local ministries like Joe's Place, Pregnancy Care Center we had last year, but maybe having them come in again. And also I can just be more active about making announcements at church once a month, twice a month, whatever it might be, to encourage outside giving, because I know that's something that I haven't really been doing. And then as far as the missions committee, internally, we've been pleading for more people to volunteer and be part of that missions committee. Tim, Suzanne, Steve, and I, we made it work, but it's a lot of work. Suzanne does a lot, Tim does a lot, I do a lot. Steve is very supportive of Suzanne. So yeah, that's something else that I think is a need from our congregation, is just to have, one or two other people that can come in and help us. So that's something that we'll be more actively making announcements for and searching for within our church. The other thing, a project that was kind of brought to my attention during the missions committee from Joel Saunders, is the missions corner over here. He loved it. He said he hasn't seen that much. though I think it's like 10 years out of date. So that's kind of on my agenda for this year, is just updating that corner and making sure that the missionaries that are out on the field have their red line going to the right place, and people who maybe aren't on the field anymore get taken off the board. And just updating that corner in general is kind of one of my personal projects for the year. But yeah, I think kind of top priority for us is to get somebody else on the missions committee and make more announcements and just get more involvement, even if you can't be in the committee, just more involvement in local missions, either financially or even volunteerism. I'm sure they would be appreciative for. All right, do you have anything else? Yeah.
Yeah, because ultimately, I mean, we don't know how much longer even Suzanne and Steve are going to be able to be a part of the missions committee, especially with Steve's health right now and everything. So it's important. We would love to see people step up and volunteer to be a part of the missions committee. Even if it's, Molly and I have both expressed even a youth. If we could get a youth member to the committee, that would be awesome, because sometimes we don't, as adults, it might be a different perspective from a younger mind. So yeah, we definitely need volunteers. I just wanted to stress on that, because we don't even know if Suzanne and Steve are going to be able to be a part of it this year. So yeah.
And back to Tim. Oh, and Elaine, or Scott, or, oh, okay. Sweet. Yeah. There's been whisperings amongst Tim and I. You know who'd be real good.
That's awesome. Thank you, Scott and Elaine. So next, we will hand it off to Teresa Marshall. And she's going to give kind of a...
Sorry, Tim. We do have people watching, and there is a question in the live stream chat for the missions committee. When does the process start for Missions Week in October, and when do we know who will be arriving?
So John gets that information from some brunch. Is that was it a brunch or just? A regional biannual meeting in March. So that's when we know the dates, and we don't really know who's coming until later. Yeah, the tentative date. That's something that also we talked about during that breakfast, that Thursday breakfast, is getting more in touch with and in communication with the other churches that are in our leg of that missions conference. So for instance, they come from Port Orchard, and there's a couple of other churches that we don't really have anything to do, like we don't talk to them, we don't talk to those churches at all right now, and that's something that they recommended to us, the missionaries that came last year, was to just get kind of more on the same page. So for instance, an issue that arose that we had no idea, but they were able to let us know, is that sometimes, like, so Sunday morning is like the premier spot, right? Because the whole congregation is here. And sometimes one missionary will have all of the Sundays, and that's not really fair to them, because then, one guy gets like 45 minutes every Sunday, and everybody else just gets their 25 minutes, or just a smaller group to speak to throughout the rest of the week. So I think just getting more in contact with the other churches in our like the Pacific Northwest region will help facilitate like a better conference. But yeah, we don't know the dates until March, and then we have our first meeting in like August, which we can maybe make it a little earlier and try to get on the same page earlier. We do? Okay. A tentative who's attendum. Okay. Okay. So yeah.
Was there any more questions, Dan?
Nope.
Okay. So now we will move on to Teresa, who will give a brief rundown of the youth group, what they did last year, and what the future holds.
Hello, everyone. I have notes. Youth group. Okay. So youth group has been weird this year. Mostly, I don't know. Well, I'm guessing. It was all boys mostly. That's probably why, because boys are weird. But we had like we had like 2 consistent girls who were in middle school, and the rest were like all boys. And then we had a couple other girls every now and then, but they were younger girls. So it was just like boys, and the majority of the boys were older boys too. So like, like junior, senior, and like just out of high school. So I have been praying probably for 6 months now. I don't even know when I started praying about all this, about what to do about that, because it's a huge gap when you're trying to teach a lesson in youth group and you have middle school girls and then like boys who are like 18 and 19 years old. And it's like, okay, what do we talk about? Because, so I either always felt like I was way over the heads of the younger ones and like they were just sitting there going, what are we even talking about? Or the older boys are just looking at me like, this is stupid. What are we talking about? So I've been praying about it for like the last forever. And just like, okay, what do we do? Do we split them off? Do we need, I really felt like we needed a young adults group. But then I was like, okay, so who teaches that? Who in church would be able to do that? Does John do it? Do I do it? That's another night of ministry that will be, so it was just a big old, like, I have no idea. And then just talking with people, talking with some of the women at Bible study on Monday night, and talking actually with some of the young adults too, because I just would talk to them and ask them. We kind of came to like this big experimental thing that we are now doing on Wednesday nights, which just started, I feel like we've only done 2, where it's on Wednesday nights, which is when youth group is, so they're used to being here anyway, but the older boys go with, and now we got older girls going too, go with John's Bible study on Wednesday and with the older, with the adults, and have a discussion and go deep. And I have the younger group, which is now a much smaller group, but it's like all the same age, so it's easier to like engage them all. And then afterwards, they can all come and play games together. So there's still, because that's a big thing, like when you suddenly like go from, we have 12 to 15 people to now we have 5 people, that brings a whole different like atmosphere. And if it's just 5 people playing games, that's a lot harder than just a bunch of people. So we've tried that for the last 2 weeks, and I believe it's going well. And so we're going to continue that. We'll probably reevaluate in a month or so and just be like, okay, is this working? Is this what we want to do? But so far, so good. So, my phone turned off. Yes, so I was excited about that. I am excited about that. I think it's a really good thing. One of the cool things about that is Troy, who, is he here? Hey, Troy, I don't know if you're here. But when it's the big group and we're all there, he's super quiet, and he rarely talks, unless to say, I don't know. That's his favorite thing to say. But the last 2 weeks, it's literally been him and 2 middle school girls and the leaders. And like he's like stepping up, and like I actually hear him talking. And I'm like, maybe this is what he kind of needed, to just be able to like, talk instead of having all these guys. So I don't know. I personally see it as a good thing. So we'll see. Summer camp this last year, Amy was leader in youth group, taught middle school summer camp. And it was crazy. It was good. But we handled some really, really difficult, controversial even topics with those kids. And it was really good. We kind of panicked a couple of weeks before camp because we were like, wait, should we be talking about these things in camp? Are the parents going to be mad that we're talking about things like this? Because we talked about identity, and we talked about homosexuality. We just talked about all the things that they are dealing with right now, and we talked about them. But I was talking with somebody before, and they were like, if my kid went to summer camp, and I was thinking they were going to summer camp and just going to study about Daniel in the lion's den, and they came home saying that we talked about, transgender, I'd be upset. And so that kind of made me be like, oh no, is this a bad thing? but I talked with some of the other camp leaders, and they were like, I think that it's good. And so, and God was really gracious in the way that we were able to present the material. So, because they are still quite young, it was middle school. So we were able to present it in a way that was not graphic, but it was definitely right, the things that they deal with at school, in public schools and stuff. And our whole point was like, we need to change the way that we think. We based it on Romans 12, 1 and 2, transform your mind by the reading of God's word, blah, 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 blah. But the whole point was like, okay, when you're at school or you're watching TV or whatever, and you see something, and this is the way everyone in the world thinks, God wants you to use your brain, change the way that you think, and think about it the way that he thinks about it. And so we were able to like bring all that in so that they could hopefully, as they go home and they're in the middle of all of that stuff, they can be like, okay, wait a minute, what does God say about this, and how should I think about it, because I want to think the way God thinks. And it was really, really, really good. So that was great. We got back from that, and the older, one of the things that we did was talked about, and the older kids did this too, talked about like what it is to have quiet time and how important that is. And so for the next couple of months, we kind of did hands-on Bible studies together in youth groups so that like they would know, like, when I'm at home, I can do this by myself, and this is how I do it. We went through the book of Ephesians that way and the book of John, and it was all good. Yeah, so I guess for the future, this next year, Tim and Teresa have, because Amy is going to step out, she's been a leader forever, and she's just like, I need a break, so she's going to stop being a leader, and Tim and Teresa are both going to step up and be a part of youth group and help out with that. Like I said, we have a smaller group as far as like what we teach on Wednesday nights, but it's a good thing. And talking with Ralph and Diana, because they have those same kids in children's church, and they have noticed like gaps in like people who grew up in church, you know, you just like, you know, all the stories, you know, it's like, oh yeah, David and Goliath, oh, Daniel and Lions, and you know, all these Samuel and all this stuff. It's just like, it's like you grow up in church and it's like, it's part of your brain, just because that, well, they don't have that. And so we have, they've started doing this in children's church, I believe, and we're starting to do it too. We just started in the book of Joshua. So we're basically going to hit like all those Sunday school characters and stories that these kids have kind of may know about, but they just heard about it once and then forgot about it, and really like look into, okay, what was happening in this person's life? How does that apply to what happens in our life? And how can we live out our faith the way that they did, or maybe did not want to do it, because some of them didn't do it so well. So that's where we're kind of going. The whole sabbatical thing, I don't know what's going to happen with that. Like, I was just like, how is that going to work? But now that Tim and Teresa are here, and then also, I think our sabbatical, we plan on being more in the summer, and Diane had come up to me and be like, Ralph and I won't be doing Jesus Pizza Club, so we'll probably be able to do things with the youth group. And I was like, well, maybe that's God's way of working that out so that there's still that consistency, and the kids are still doing stuff throughout the summer and everything while we're not there. So, any questions? Oh, Winter Blast is coming up. Yes, that is the weekend that Ben and Taylor are getting married, so I won't be going to Winter Blast. And originally we had like 7 people that were able to go, because it's just a high school thing and not a college thing. But a few of them cannot go now, so we're down to, we have 4 for sure who are going. And Teresa is going to, we're not, I told her we're being flexible, because it depends. If there's 4 going, we don't really need to take the big van. So, but that also depends on, most of them are like 18, except for one 16-year-old. So I talked to his dad and mom, and I was like, if you guys aren't comfortable with your 16-year-old driving up with 18 and 19-year-olds alone in the car, I get that. And then Teresa will go with the van. But anyway, that comes up in like 3 weeks, I think it is. It's the middle of February, President's Day weekend. So, and it's in Seattle this year at that church, and it's going to be good. So, yes. Questions?
Is worship next? Well, you might as well stay up here, Teresa, because now you have to talk about worship.
Okay, hello again. Worship. So we make a schedule, and like this year, Dan has made a spreadsheet, which is it's color coordinated, and everybody has a color, which is really cool. We're organized. But we lost some singers this year for different reasons. Ellie had to go back to work. Steve was out for a while because of stuff. And so you've seen the same people up there a lot. but one of the cool things is that is kind of like forced Logan to, and he's wanted to, but it's kind of like been like it's happening now. He has sort of stepped up, and whenever he told me like a while back, like whenever I'm there, I'm just going to do it because I like it, and it's like a passion of his, and which is very cool, and I think we've all seen that. So Logan has kind of stepped up into definitely leadership position in that, which is really neat. The elders established some guidelines for the people who are up front as far as just you by virtue of being up front, you are a leader, and because of that, you should strive to behave in a certain way and appear just be a good example and all those sorts of things. So we had guidelines that were brought up, and it was good. We bought some new sound equipment. Dan's been going crazy with sound stuff, which is good because I feel like I know nothing about that part of it, and so I will often be like, it sounds weird, and it sounds like everyone's in a tin box under a waterfall. I don't know how you fix that, but that's what I hear. And so he's been doing that and learning a ton, and it's been really good, and I've been not having to say much lately because it's just good. So we've been buying new equipment and learning all the tech part of it, which all of that is going to continue. This year we're hoping to add, because normally we practice on Sundays, and schedules are so crazy that every now and then we would practice at a different time, but not very consistently, and that's one thing that's very helpful to Dan and the sound people is if we have more than one practice, because then they can really, on the one practice, focus in on fixing the sound and making sure the mix is right and all of that stuff. So we're hoping to add consistently an extra practice earlier in the week. We also plan to, I learned this just the other day, redo the stage area because the chords are a mess and everywhere and it's all crazy. So I guess take up the stage and rerun things and then redo it so it looks pretty too. So that's going to be happening, and I think that involves some of the sound booth back there too. So we've just, as always, as far as music is concerned and the actual music, we still, our big goal is to strive to have a mix of older music and newer music, and the thing is, the more time marches on, the more music there is, and you can only do so many songs on a Sunday. And my kids will be like, this is an old song, and I'll look at it, and it'll be a song that most people would be like, no, this is a new song, but it's 30 years old now. And so it's like, I tell my husband all the time, because he loves movies, you guys know that about him, I'm like, if you wanted to watch every single movie that came out that you thought you would watch, that's all you would be doing with your life is watching movies every moment of the day, and then you still wouldn't watch them all. It's kind of that way with music. There's an infinite amount. That's another thing we did. I thought 3 minutes was going to be way too much. Logan developed a list of 60 songs, I think, is on it. And because with so much music out there, and 1 week Ralph and Diane will pick the music, and then 1 week Tim will pick the music, and then 1 week Logan will pick the music, and then 1 week I will pick the music. We could have never do the same song in a whole entire year. We could just have new song, never repeat anything. And that's not good for people in the congregation because consistency is good. Not all people are music people, so just picking up new songs like they're nothing is not something everyone can do. So we have a list that is a base list that we work from, and then obviously new songs come in every now and then and all of that sort of stuff. But you can't please everybody all the time. And I just want you all to know that we're not just out there being like, oh, let's do that song and do that song and that song, and just kind of like without any rhyme or reason. We think about it a lot, and we try to be respectful and like do it in a way that everyone can enjoy it. So there you go. Questions?
So I'm really happy to hear that we might have another night of practice or a day of practice, because for one thing, we'll get to know the music better, but I know of people that might want to sing on the team. Yeah, he's bound down. And other players that might want to play. I know I talked to Josh, maybe Tyler, right, on the bass. I think we need to get these folks involved in doing that, and I think the more we do it, the more comfortable we'll get, and I think we'll have more singers, players. Josh is the guy I play tennis with. He's been here a couple of times.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Ralph, because I was going to actually say something about that too. That yes, we need more people that want to get involved in the music, just like any other ministry here at Grace Bible. But like today, having Aaron up there with his guitar was just awesome, and so more of that would be good.
I was just just gonna say, I think it'd really be neat to have some solos once in a while, or a couple of people that, a trio, or a or a couple, just for a change.
You were saying solos, yeah. So on that being said, yeah. Yeah, well, and we've talked about that as well, like bringing clarinets and flute and violin and different things. But also, like, I know we've done this in the past where someone wants to do a special song. I've done it. Logan's done it. But we'd like to see other people who would be, want to do that and do like a solo or something, or just a song that they're feeling led by the Spirit to do. So, and that's one thing that I was going to touch on. I know when I pick the songs, I put a lot of thought into it because I pray on it. I don't just pick random songs. I let the Spirit guide me on what, I'll find out what the sermon is, and then I kind of go with that. But I pray on it, and that's an important thing to do. Prayer is important to involve in all aspects of it. So, yeah, that's just what I have to add on that. Is there anything else on worship? Okay. So now we're going to hand the mic over to Julie Eppel, who's going to give a brief something here on the children's ministry here at Grace Bible.
Okay, children's ministry, we do, I say we, I mean Diana and Ralph and me so far. And we have anywhere from age 4 through 5th grade. They're taking some of the middle schoolers right now during our church time. We have written curriculum in the back if people need it, but there's so much information on the internet to just go on and find something that's more updated, you might say, that kids would be interested in. One of the, I know your teaching style is different from mine. There's no cut and dry, you have to do it this way. I want you to do it how the Lord leads you, because that's when it's going to come across the best, and when He's leading you. For me, I like to do an object lesson and then go into a Bible lesson from the Bible, and letting them know that it's coming from the Bible, where it's at, Old Testament, New Testament, and show them how it actually applies for today, and how they can use it today. And today we were doing Samson, talking about Samson, and I started out with superheroes. Anybody have a superhero that they like? Well, somebody liked Batman. Why do you like Batman? You know, somebody had Superman, somebody had this. And then talked about a superhero that was in the Bible, which was Samson, and he was a superhero because he had such strong strength. Anyway, we went through all that, and at the end talked about who was our greatest enemy, because Samson had defeated all these enemies with his strength, and at the end they realized his strength came from the Lord, and that our greatest enemy now aren't the Philistines, but sin is our enemy. That's our greatest enemy. And we always try to end with the gospel message. And even though they've heard it over and over again, because every time they come, I always try to end it with the gospel message. One of these days, it's going to stick. I was really happy to hear it stuck today with one of my kids, so I was really proud of that. Future. I'd like to see more of our younger generation step up and step in, some of our older teens, because my age group think they're like really cool, and for them to see that age group expressing their love for the Lord would make a big impact. I would like to see more men come in and actually come in and teach, because that makes an impact as well, that men can actually love the Lord too. And a lot of people, I think, are intimidated because I have such a diverse group, and so they find it difficult. But you're only in there for an hour, and if you are enthusiastic about what you're trying to present, they'll pick up on that, and they'll get enthusiastic about it too. So, and like I said, if it's something that you're being led to talk about, you're going to do a good job, because God's going to lead it, and He's going to be speaking and not you. Now, I've had some really, I thought, lame lessons. I went, oh, why did I pick this? And it's ended up being one of my best lessons, so, because I let God take over. And so if anybody would like to take a turn at teaching, I can get you curriculum. You can find your own curriculum. Find something that you're led to speak about. In the past, we've always had the book, this. Didn't work out because people weren't enthused about it. It wasn't what God was leading them to teach. So it actually became boring, and I don't think there's any greater harm to our kids than making learning about Christ boring. We don't want it to be boring. It should be exciting. I'm excited. They should be excited about it. So, any questions? What?
Twice now with the missions committee and with Children's Church, we talked about having some of the youth do it. They're not going to come and be like, I want to do this. But if you guys pray about it and like God puts someone in your mind, or you just like have someone like, maybe that would be good, and you go and you specifically say to them, hey, I've been thinking maybe you should try this, and I will help you like specifically with this, because they're probably scared to death. But like, I'll sit down with you and we'll get it together and and maybe just once a month, or like missions committee, just be like, hey, we'd like to have you, can you like try it for a year and see? Then they would probably be like, oh, they want me. And that would be like, well, yes. But if you guys are expecting them to be like, I want to do it, that's not going to happen, just because they're busy and they don't think about it and they're scared and they don't think that they can. But I bet a lot of them would do things if you ask them. So.
I did ask somebody one time, and they like freaked out. Like, oh! So, anyway.
Okay. No more. Is there? Oh, there's a question.
when you tell them that those people were really that they're true stories, and their eyes get big and they just can't believe it, that all those people that they read about or heard about, Bible stories, are really real people.
Okay, was there anything else on children's ministry? Any more questions or comments? Nothing more for Julie? Okay. So now we will move on to YouTube AV, which is going to be Dan Howard. He's going to give a little recap on last year and where he's expecting the new 2025 to go, and growth and all that for our AV and YouTube live stream and all that stuff.
All right, thank you, Tim. So I'll try to keep this short and sweet. YouTube ministry, if you don't know, we are live streaming our services every single Sunday morning, and that continues to be a blessing for people who can't make it to church, for people who are sick, like Molly's been sick for several weeks now, but she's been able to just put it up on YouTube at home and still feel like she's part of the service and part of the congregation. So that continues to be a blessing. We don't like to track the success of a ministry in numbers per se, but we do know that we are reaching a lot of people, and that continues to grow every year, and so we feel blessed by that. Highlights from this year, our top sermon video was Tim's on the End Times, and that's become our most viewed sermon of all time in our channel. So, and it's great because that video's reached a lot of people. There's been a lot of engagement in the comments. People outside of our church have come to that video and they've gotten into discussions in the comments, which is another blessing because, you know, God's using our church and using Tim and the message that God chose for Tim to deliver to reach out to people and help other people across the world get into the book. So that continues to be a blessing. We're excited to continue doing our live stream. Beyond the live stream, we want to post more additional content. That's something we did start doing a lot more in 23, and it dropped off a bit in 24. We weren't able to post as much additional content. We had a few series and I guess kind of pitches and ideas worked out for other types of content that I would like to pick up if time allows for it and if it's God's will for the YouTube channel. To talk about AV, you guys already heard some stuff from Teresa, which makes sense. AV and worship is kind of a hand-in-hand ministry. You can't have one without the other, and they support each other. So yes, we were able to add some equipment this year. The in-ear monitors was a big one. That helps the musicians, the singers, etc., be able to hear what they're playing or singing more clearly. I would like to look forward to this year getting more adoption for that technology because it's something that helps everybody, just helps increase the performance of the worship team up there. And then you also heard from Teresa as far as plans for this upcoming year. We're going to explore making renovations to the stage, and along with that comes renovations to the lights and the sound and maybe even the video. So we're going to explore that. We're having some professionals come in just to take a look at our systems in the upcoming weeks. We're going to kind of put together ideas that we have, start to get informed on a quote, how much those things would cost us, and then of course, you know, do our due diligence and work through the process with the elders and the deacons, whether we choose to move forward with that or not. But it is something we're excited about. The system we've had up there is thrown together by a lot of different people over several years without much documentation going into it. So it's a blessing that it turns on every Sunday and doesn't catch the building on fire. So we're really looking forward to improvements on that. And we'll take any, you know, ideas of anything you have that's along the technical side of things that you'd like to see. Any questions on YouTube or the AV stuff?
I have a question for you about YouTube and content and content creation and a schedule for putting out content other than the live stream. If other congregation members were interested in producing or creating content for the YouTube channel, what would be a process or a way of running those ideas by you or whoever else as far as wanting to get ideas from, you know, youth or even just other adult members up on the YouTube channel, just because I think that especially youth are interested in content creation, and you know, with the social media era, it's something that pretty much everybody can do, maybe not do well, but they can, you know, get ideas out there, and it might just be a way of engaging the congregation in YouTube, and also engaging youth and just getting, you know, serving in different ways that they might be attracted to.
Yeah, absolutely. Bring them to me. Bring them to me. If anyone has ideas for YouTube, I'm happy to hear them. I have, as far as scheduling goes, production scheduling, things like that, that's right in my wheelhouse. But ideas, well, I'll take any ideas. So if you do have an idea for a YouTube series, especially if the youth have an idea, if they want to create content, yeah, just let me know and we'll start making a plan and working that out. And I think that's a great idea, Molly. Anybody else? No? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to hand it over to Pastor John, and he's going to cover Wednesday nights and Sunday service, and yeah, so.
My wife has to leave for every child, so that's why she has to head out. So, Wednesday night, we have evolved over this past year. We were doing Bible study, going through a book at the beginning, and then we started doing a recap of the Sunday sermon, going a little bit in depth in there. And now, since the beginning of 2025, we started, as Teresa mentioned, the older kids being in the group with our Bible study. And the desire of the older group is to, the desire of the group now is to go deeper into the Bible, make it applicable. When we talk about a story, when we talk about something, how does that translate in today's 2025? I'm changing a little bit of my style of teaching. I've always been an interactive teacher, but it's going to be more question and the answer driven to the next question or the next thing. I will have a biblical text that we'll be talking about, and then we're going deeper in there and then driving it into application at home, here, now. That's the goal, that's the plan. The Wednesday night has been the regular attenders on Wednesday nights have been very on board on that. I appreciate that, I thank them for that. And I'm looking forward to see where this is going to go for the idea of educating and deepening their understanding of everybody in the study, as also doing these cross-generational, getting to know one another and getting in each other's lives and supporting. Any question about Wednesday night? Sunday service, I think, has been a very good thing this past year. I just got done today with the study of Nehemiah. I thought it was very applicable to our church where we were at. And I think we've gotten good, positive, constructive criticism and comments. We've gotten a lot of praise about different things. We're excited about where we're going this year. The plan these next years is to be in the parables. We're going to do some parables for the next few weeks. Tim Harris, the one that Tim mentioned, he's going to be coming down and speaking on the sabbatical, what that means. I didn't know what that meant, and I still kind of don't know what that means. But I do want to say that when I do go on a sabbatical, there's going to be expectations. I'm not going to be going onto a beach and have a little drink with umbrellas in it, and that's going to be for 3 months. That's not what a sabbatical is. That's called a vacation. That's different, okay? And so I'm looking forward to not only learning more and being able to go through this process, as well as the elders and the deacons, but I'm also excited for the congregation to understand what this is. Why are we doing this? Why is it necessary? Why should we do this? You know, and why doesn't every profession have a sabbatical? You know, that's a valid question, right? What is that? And so, Lord willing, we'll be able to answer some of those questions as time goes on Sunday morning, as well, possibly on Wednesday night and on individual conversations. But right now, we're really excited about where Sunday morning's going. After the parables, after Tim speaks, I'm also thinking about doing the 5 ones. There's 5 books in the Bible that are one chapter. We're going to speak on each one of those. And 2 of them are very challenging, so it's going to be interesting. Might be more than 1 week. I'll just say that. So we'll see what happens. Any questions about Sunday morning? Okay, I'm going to jump into eldership since got to keep it to 3 minutes. Kind of been going a little long on all this. Okay, eldership and vision, direction of what we're going to do for 2025. And to tell you the truth, Tim, Dan, and I, we kind of dropped that ball at the beginning. We wanted to be speaking, praying about this for 3 months at least. I mean, all year, but really focused for 3 months. And for different reasons, that didn't happen. And suddenly, when God brought that to our attention, we kind of panicked, but we didn't want to jump into something right away and just say, hey, this is it. So we started praying about it, and it was very interesting how God's grace and favor is, because he presented an idea right in front of us. He said, this is what we're going to do. Oh, okay. And I thought it was going to take more time to develop that. As you know, I started preaching from the pulpit that it's time to take the car off the lift, put the tires on the road, and get the ministry going forward. I want us to start doing something. We need to start being in the community. We need to improving ourselves in the sense of our relationship with Jesus. It's time to not stop just getting everything prepared and start going. And if there's problems along the way, we fix it, So it's time to start going. And so I started that, and Dan and Tim, when we were discussing, said the really thing we need to start doing now is for that to happen is planning and organization. Planning and organization. That's what our focus is this year. Planning and organization. Because right now, and this is a lot my fault and my culture that I brought from Puerto Rico, is that we do things, whatever the ministry demands, without much planning and forethought. So when something presented to ourselves, hey, it's for the ministry, let's do it. Instead of having a plan, an idea, and anticipating those things coming up. That hasn't happened a long time, mainly because I was by myself, and that was not one of my giftings. I like to plan, but I'm also right in the moment. And so, and I'll give you an example. Someone wants to play instruments, and I said, more instruments up front and everything, and someone needed reeds or something. Let's buy them reeds, because get them up in front. But wait a second. What are they contributing? Did they just want free reeds for their clarinet or free strings for their guitar? They're playing. And that's a different philosophy of understanding of ministry. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a possible. Let's do it. Wait a minute. Yeah, that's a potential, but what are you willing to bring to add to it? Are we just going to pay for everybody's instruments in the church, so they can come and play? But see, that's my way I functioned before. Now that church is growing and we're starting to get our legs underneath us, we need to start planning and organize. We need to jump through some hoops when that's necessary. What are we going to do when somebody would like to play instruments? What are we going to do when somebody would like to sing? What is the vetting process? Membership. What is the way of membership? We tried this 3 or 4 times of different things. Well, we need to get something formalized in writing. What is membership? The Constitution. I redid the Constitution a while back. Are we following the Constitution? Do we need to relook at the Constitution? Those things. Also, in regards to ministries, when someone wants to start a new ministry, is that something that God wants us to do or not? Like if somebody said, want to start a Christian school here. Great idea, but is God calling us to start a Christian school at Grace Bible Church or not? So we need to get planning and organization down. And also supporting those people that are doing in the ministry, like teaching. They're talking about Sunday school. Like, what can we do to help Julie accomplish what she's doing? Teresa, Wednesday night, when men's and women's Bible study starts up, the men and Authentic Man and Women Warriors, when they start up, what do they need to be successful? Small groups, is that something we're going to be doing? Life groups, something, So all these things are what we're saying this year we need to address. We need to start praying about it. We need to start organizing. We need to get some more guides as we go forward. Any questions about the vision or the direction? I know it's kind of nebulous, but you understand that we're putting these guardrails up so that we can keep us go forward.
And just to comment on it, like John's saying, planning and organization, and it is very important, and we that is our focus. But again, what does the Bible say? A man makes his plans, but the Lord guides the path. So with that, we as elders, we pray on this stuff. It's not just something that we take lightly. Like Dan and I have talked about it many times. We don't take this being an elder lightly. We take it very seriously. We pray on this stuff. We seek the Lord in all of it. It's His church. It's His vision. He's going to work through all of us to make it happen. And that's what I feel that's important for all of you to understand, that, we can make all the plans, but ultimately God is the guide. He's the one that's guiding and directing it. And so things might come up where maybe we made plans, but that's the thing. If we make these plans far in advance and there is twists and turns or something comes up, we have time to respond to that or make changes, adjustments if need be. So, yeah.
I spoke on that, plan, and then pivot. Remember? Plan, pivot. Remember that? It's a while back. I know it's a long time ago. That's plan and pivot. Okay, and then I think there's one more thing we need to comment on. Hopefully at the end of April, beginning of May, the elders are going to go away for a 1 or 2 day retreat. That was brought up to the elders. This is still in the pre-planning stage. But one of the things that we want to do as elders is evaluate each other and ourselves. Are we still following God? Is still God calling us to be in this role as elders? Do we have the time? And I'll give you a prime example, like Russ Notter. Remember Russ Notter? And he was a great quality for elder. But when Doris got sick, the times and demands of his time was dedicated to his wife. He couldn't be an elder in church. He needed to step down from that position to focus on his wife. It wasn't a punishment. It was a reality of life. And that's what we want to make sure, that we hold each other accountable and hold ourselves accountable. How are we doing spiritually? How are we doing time-wise? Can we still continue to be an elder and serve like we should? Those things. And it's important because that is accountability to each other. And is there an area that you need to work on? Guess what? We all need areas that we have work on, right? But sometimes we have a blind spot, and that's where you have other people around you to say, hey, I don't think you're paying attention to this. I think you need to address this, and let's get some resources to help you in that area. Anything else? Active group. Yeah, okay.
Okay. Dan, did you have anything else that you wanted to discuss from an elder standpoint? Yes. You had nothing else you wanted to add?
Well, yeah, so I do, maybe this is the first time some of you have heard that it's a sabbatical year and that John will be taking a sabbatical. So we really want this to be an opportunity to field any of your initial thoughts and questions about that. And that extends to from now until the end of sabbatical. Tim and I are the other elders on the elder board. This is what we've been training for. We are prepared, and also putting our faith in God, to step up and lead the church through this time. And I also want to be firm in defending John and Teresa's sabbatical. This is a time of rest and refreshment for them. They are supposed to be taking a break from all ministry. So that's not just preaching on Sundays and playing music on Sundays. They're supposed to be taking a break from all ministry. Now, that doesn't mean if something disastrous happens that we can't get in touch with them, that will be an option. But what I'm talking about is more of the everyday type of things. If you have a concern or an idea about something you want to see in the church over that sabbatical time, we're not going to be contacting John or Teresa about that. That would be disrespectful to their sabbatical. That would be pulling out of their time of rest and refreshment. So that's what Tim and I are here for. And look, we're going to mess some things up, okay? It's going to be that way. Let's all remember that it's through the grace of God that we're all here today. And so let's extend that grace to each other as we get through this sabbatical time. So, any questions about that?
I expect as a congregation, we're all going to be very supportive of the sabbatical, and I know that we have a very service-oriented congregation, so I'm wondering what would be the appropriate avenue for people who are interested in, taking some of the burden. So say, oh, I know that we have somebody in the hospital. Is there something that I can do to make sure that those people get visited, or whatever? What would be the appropriate avenue to go about as a volunteer for taking some of what John does or what Teresa does off of the plate and saying, hey, Dan and Tim, I'm here if this thing needs to be filled?
Yeah, great question. So that's one of the things we talk about as elders is encouraging people to serve. This is just an amazing opportunity given to us from God for people to step up. And I don't worry about if you feel, oh, I'm not qualified, or, oh, I'm nervous about that. We need your help. We can't do this alone. So like Molly said, if you do want to help out, if you want to visit the sick, visit the elderly, prepare meals for people, there's so many different things that we could do all the time as a church. But if you want to offer those services now in this year, yes, approach Tim or I. Molly is great at fielding volunteer requests and matching people up with who's doing what service or who's leading what ministry and so on. So yes, you can come to see us. And I would ask, if any of those requests do get to John or Teresa, that you guys just ping pong them over to Tim and I. Don't feel like you have to field those this year. So, any other questions?
So are you going to be presenting the sabbatical to the full congregation, like on a Sunday morning?
So, good question, Julie. This was our first official announcement of the sabbatical at this congregational meeting. Yes, we are going to be talking about it more to the entire congregation on Sundays. And I think was mentioned, there is a consultant. His name is Tim Harris. And so he works for a company that organizes sabbaticals for pastors throughout the state. So he is going to come. He's already done a preliminary visit with us, with the elders and other leaders of the church, and he's going to make another visit where he'll be able to explain to the congregation in a lot more professional terms what a sabbatical is, and he has things like there's a ramp on period and a ramp off period, and just explaining to all of us what those things mean for a sabbatical.
Do we still have deacons?
Yes, we do have deacons. Great question. The deacons currently are Andy and DJ and Kevin. Obviously, Kevin's the president of our deacon board. He's watching live right now. Hey, Kevin. Sorry, I forgot. So those are our official deacons. When Tim and I became elders, we were, I guess, promoted off of the deacon board, and we're now on the elder board. We still attend the deacon meetings. We very much like to stay on the same page. As we move forward and more people become either elders or deacons, I think the plan is that we only need one elder as an elder representative at the deacon meetings. But that is, we do need more deacons too. And so that's one thing I think we're going to look at this year is we want to honor the Constitution and what that says as far as appointing new deacons. So we do have to refresh ourselves on what that process is. And that would start with the elders and then be brought to the deacons as far as appointing new ones in an interim basis. And then at the next annual congregational meeting is when we would have a confirmation of those official deacons.
Yeah, so I just want to add to that. So, and John has expressed this before, and Ralph attended the last deacon meeting. It's an open room. I mean, right, Andy? Anyone can attend a deacon meeting. We have nothing to hide, and just hear what we do at these meetings. And if you're interested in eventually becoming a deacon, this would give you a chance to just sit in and hear what the meetings are about and what we discuss and the different business things for the church, and not only that, but the spiritual things for the church. And that's how Dan and I started. I mean, we just started by attending deacon meetings. We were just there as observers. So anyone who wants to become a deacon, that's kind of the process we have in place right now, is come to a deacon meeting, and just observe and see if it is something that God is putting on your heart in that way to serve the church. So yeah, we've had a couple that have reached out to where they have shown some interest, and that's great. So we offer for anyone who wants to come to those meetings, they can come and observe those meetings. Oh, and I wanted to give a shout out to Kevin, because he would have actually been heading up this meeting because he is the president of the deacon board, and he has stepped up huge. Kevin has taken on so much, and I am thankful for that, and I know Dan is too. He has really stepped into that role and just taken it by the horns, and so thank you to Kevin, because it's huge. It means a lot, and it takes a lot to be the president of the deacon board and all that goes into that.
Okay. Any other questions for us as an elder board? They can be specific to the sabbatical. They can be about anything God's putting on your heart. Okay. And like I said, this isn't the only time you're free to ask Tim or I anything. We're elders. God's chosen us to lead this church. Like Tim said, we don't take that responsibility lightly. We want to honor the congregants. We want to honor the members. So if you have anything at all that you want to say to us about anything, even if you just need prayer, we're here for you.
And if you're wondering when the deacon meetings are, they are every second Saturday of every month. We try to meet by 9:30 in the morning on those Saturdays. So, anything else?
Nope. Okay. All right, Tim.
Okay, so what we'd like to do to end the meeting, this is something a little different, but what we want to do is we want to break up into smaller groups, and we just want to pray. We want to invite anybody in the small groups to pray if you want to pray. You don't have to pray. It could just be one person in a group praying. But if you feel the need or God is leading you to pray, please feel free to do that. So what we'd like to do is just split up into some small groups. I don't know how many groups were we thinking, Dan? 3 or 4? 3 or 4 smaller groups for prayer. So